Honored and pleased to be here this afternoon, every time I come here to the Inner Harbor. I'm always have to kind of pinch myself because I grew up not more than 6 blocks from this building. And I have so many good and bad memories. But never did I dream that I would be standing in front of an audience of some of the finest lawyers from all over the country, if not the world. So I first of all want to stop by here to thank you for doing what you do. You have a very important task, and I want to give you a little bit of insight as to what's happening in Washington and also what's not happening. So welcome to Baltimore, a complex city and community that have been and remain at the center of our nation's continuing struggle for civil and human rights. Welcome to the place where our nation's star-spangled banner proclaimed our freedom, and also the place from which Frederick Douglass escaped slavery. Welcome to the birthplace of Justice Thurgood Marshall and Clarence Mitchell Jr., and also the birthplace of de jure residential segregation. Welcome to the home of some of the finest medical institutions in the world, and also the city in which the life expectancy in largely black Sandtown, Winchester, where I live, is 20 years less than in largely white Roland Park, a short distance away. Welcome to the home of the 19th century know-nothings, and the place where the vision of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. took root in the minds of young black children, one of them named Elijah more than a half a century ago. I've often said that our children are the living messengers we send to a future we will never see. And I do believe that I am a messenger for generations that went before me, but that I had an opportunity and the privilege to have my life eclipsed with theirs. And so I'll begin with a personal reflection about the impact on my family and our ongoing struggle for universal civil rights. As lawyers, the lives of individual Americans are where our social justice work must find its most lasting meaning. Robert and Ruth Cummings, my mother and father, struggling as sharecroppers in Manning, Clarendon County, South Carolina, on the same land where our ancestors had been slaves. As a matter of fact, if you were to go to that land today, the very family that enslaved my family still own the land. So we're not that far from slavery. Living in the place that gave America Briggs versus Elliott, one of the 5 cases that later would be decided under the shared designation of Brown versus Board of Education. Many of my relatives were plaintiffs in the Briggs case. Many of them suffered greatly in the Briggs case. They were punished in all kinds of ways because they merely wanted to have a better life. During World War II, Philip Randolph convinced President Roosevelt to integrate our nation's defense industry. As a result, father and mother could move from South Carolina to South Baltimore in order to create a better life for their children. Now let's make it abundantly clear. My mother and father were worried about their children. And so they made a decision very early on, as soon as they got married, that they would move to Baltimore. As I said, and live not very far from here, where we sit today, in a small 3-room house where we ended up with 7 children and 2 adults. Now you can imagine, with 1 bathroom, what the mornings were like. You had to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning just to get a spot. And so in Baltimore, I was disparaged and excluded, placed in special education in a poor and still segregated South Baltimore elementary school. Yet we survived and thrived because of our faith that a day would come when the good in Americans would outweigh the failing.
One of the most powerful orators in the Democratic Party.
It is so painful. I can't even begin to tell you.
When Democrats won back the House in 2018, Cummings became chair of the powerful House Oversight Committee, which roots out fraud and mismanagement in the administration.
A child is sitting in their own feces, can't take a shower. Come on, man. What's that about?
It's a job reserved for those who won't back down from a fight. When Cummings was hit with a barrage of angry tweets, he defended his city, not himself.
I want people to come to Baltimore. We are a great city. We really are.
In a statement, Cummings' wife, Maya, who was also the chair of the Democratic Party in Maryland, said, quote, "He worked until his last breath because he believed our democracy was the highest and the best expression of our collective humanity and that our nation's diversity was our promise, not our problem. It's been an honor to walk by his side on this incredible journey. I loved him deeply and will miss him."